The fluorescent lights flickered in the underwater research facility as Nathan Brooks completed his late-night examination of coral samples. The facility, nestled 20 meters beneath the Pacific Ocean's surface, usually provided him with the solitude he craved for his work. But tonight, something felt different. A soft vibration ran through the metal floors, barely noticeable at first. Nathan dismissed it as normal facility operations until he heard an unfamiliar hum coming from the east wing. His curiosity piqued, he set down his microscope and grabbed his tablet, checking the facility's sensors. Nothing showed up on the readings, which was stranger still. The hum grew louder as he approached the emergency airlock chamber. The reinforced window revealed only darkness beyond, but the control panel displayed an impossible reading. The chamber had been accessed from the outside, without triggering any alarms. Nathan's hand hovered over the emergency alert button. Years of scientific training told him to call security, but something held him back. The airlock's inner door slid open with a hydraulic hiss, revealing a figure huddled in the corner. Water dripped from shimmering fabric that seemed to ripple with its own light. The figure raised its head, and Nathan found himself staring into eyes that glowed like distant nebulae, swirling pools of purple and silver that were decidedly not human. "Please," the figure whispered, its voice carrying an otherworldly resonance that made the hair on Nathan's neck stand up. "They cannot find me here." Nathan's scientific mind raced with questions, but the fear in those ethereal eyes spoke to something deeper. The being before him was clearly intelligent, clearly desperate, and clearly in need of help. "Who's following you?" he asked, keeping his voice low and steady, the same tone he used when approaching injured marine life. The figure, feminine in appearance despite its alien features, attempted to stand but stumbled. Nathan instinctively moved to help, catching her before she fell. Her skin felt cool to the touch, with a subtle pattern that reminded him of scales. "The hunters," she replied, her voice trembling. "My father's elite guard. They..." She paused, looking at Nathan with a mixture of fear and hope. "You are not afraid?" Nathan almost laughed. Of course he was afraid. He was holding an alien in his arms in a classified research facility. But fear wasn't the strongest emotion he felt. "I'm more curious than afraid," he admitted. "And you clearly need help." The alien woman seemed to relax slightly at his words. "I am Lyra, first daughter of the Celestian Empire." She spoke with quiet dignity despite her bedraggled state. "And I have just committed treason by coming to Earth." Nathan helped her to a nearby bench, his mind reeling from her words. He'd studied unusual marine life his entire career, but nothing had prepared him for this. "Why Earth? Why here?" Lyra's luminescent eyes darted to the facility's windows, where the dark ocean pressed against the glass. "Your world is mostly water," she explained. "The tracking technology they use, it cannot penetrate your oceans effectively. And this facility..." She gestured at the surrounding equipment. "It shields certain energy signatures." "I had hoped." A sudden bang from above made them both jump. Lyra's eyes widened in terror. "They're here. They've found me faster than I anticipated." She grabbed Nathan's arm, her grip surprisingly strong. "I know I have no right to ask, but I need your help. If they take me back, countless innocent people will die." Nathan looked at the alien princess, then at the security panel that would alert the authorities. He was a scientist, not a hero. He studied life, he didn't save it. But as he met Lyra's desperate gaze, he knew he couldn't turn her in. "The specimen storage room," he said quickly, already leading her down the corridor. "It's lined with lead to protect sensitive samples. If they're tracking you somehow, it might help." As they hurried through the facility, Nathan's mind raced with the implications of his decision. He was harboring an alien fugitive, a princess no less, from what sounded like interstellar law enforcement. His quiet life of research and solitude had just become infinitely more complicated. But watching Lyra's determined stride despite her obvious exhaustion, he couldn't bring himself to regret his choice. Something bigger than his ordinary life was unfolding, and for better or worse, he was now part of it. They reached the storage room just as another bang resonated through the facility, closer this time. As Nathan sealed the heavy door behind them, Lyra turned to him with a mix of gratitude and regret. "I am sorry to involve you in this," she whispered. "But you should know, helping me is now an act of interstellar defiance. And my father's hunters will not look kindly on any who assist me." Nathan's heart pounded as he heard footsteps in the distance. "Well," he said, trying to keep his voice steady, "I suppose it's a good thing I've always been interested in alien life forms." The specimen storage room hummed with the gentle whir of preservation units as Nathan and Lyra crouched in darkness. Through the thick walls, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed. The hunters had breached the facility. "They're using neural scanners," Lyra whispered, her ethereal eyes dimmed to barely a glimmer. "But the lead in these walls should confuse their readings. We have minutes, perhaps, before they resort to physical searches." Nathan's mind raced through his options. The facility's layout was complex, designed to compartmentalize different research projects. "There's a maintenance tunnel," he murmured, "connects to the geothermal vents. We might be able to." A voice boomed through the facility's communication system, speaking in a language Nathan had never heard before. The words seemed to slice through the air like shards of ice. Lyra's face paled, the patterns on her skin dimming further. "Commander Vex," she breathed. "My father's most ruthless enforcer. He says." She swallowed hard. "He says they'll decompress the facility if I don't surrender." Nathan's blood ran cold. "They'd kill everyone here? The entire research team?" "The Celestian Empire values order above all else," Lyra's voice was bitter. "A few human lives mean nothing to them. This is why I had to flee. This is what I'm fighting against." The sound of a door being wrenched open somewhere in the facility spurred them into action. Nathan pulled up the facility's schematics on his tablet, his fingers trembling slightly as he searched for their escape route. "What exactly did you discover?" he asked as he worked. "What made you risk everything to come here?" Lyra's expression darkened. "My father's council has developed a weapon, they call it the Harmony Protocol. It doesn't just kill, it rewrites consciousness itself. They plan to use it on rebellious worlds, turning free people into willing slaves." She touched a panel on her suit, and a small holographic projection appeared, showing complex molecular structures. "I couldn't let that happen. So I stole this, the core research data." Nathan stared at the projection, his scientific mind processing the implications. The structures showed neural pathway modifications he'd never imagined possible. "This is beyond anything we have on Earth. And beyond anything we should have on Celestia," Lyra said firmly. "No one should have this power." Another crash echoed through the facility, closer now. Nathan found what he was looking for on the schematics. Here, he pointed to a maintenance hatch partially hidden behind a storage unit. "It leads to the thermal regulation system. We can follow it too." The facility's lights suddenly went out, plunging them into darkness broken only by the glow of Lyra's eyes and skin. Emergency lighting kicked in moments later, bathing everything in a red glow. "They're cutting systems," Nathan realized. "Trying to flush us out." Lyra's expression hardened with determination. "Nathan, you don't have to come with me. You can tell them I threatened you, forced you to help. They might." "No," Nathan interrupted, surprising himself with his firmness. "I've seen enough. If your people are willing to kill innocent researchers just to maintain their power, then I'm already involved. Besides," he managed a small smile, "I've got about 1,000 questions about your biology that I'd love to ask, if we survive this." A ghost of a smile crossed Lyra's face, but it vanished as heavy footsteps approached their hiding place. Nathan quickly moved the storage unit, revealing the maintenance hatch. It was going to be a tight fit. The tunnel network extends through the whole facility, he explained as he worked to open the hatch. We can use it to reach the emergency submarine bay. Assuming you can survive underwater pressure? My people evolved in conditions far more extreme than your oceans, Lyra assured him. But the hunters will expect us to head for escape vessels. Yes, Nathan agreed, finally getting the hatch open. But they don't know these waters like I do. There's a network of underwater caves about 2 kilometers from here. Perfect for hiding until we can figure out our next move. As they squeezed into the maintenance tunnel, the sound of the storage room door being blown open echoed behind them. Lyra's glow provided just enough light to see by as they crawled through the cramped space. You're very calm for someone whose life just got turned upside down, Lyra observed as they moved. Nathan let out a quiet laugh. Believe me, I'm terrified. But you know what they say, a scientist's curiosity is stronger than their sense of self-preservation. We don't have that saying on Celestia. Well, maybe you should. It might make your empire a bit less rigid. They fell silent as voices echoed through the facility's ventilation system. The hunters were methodically searching every room, and it was only a matter of time before they found the open maintenance hatch. As they crawled through the tunnel, Nathan realized his life would never be the same. He had just become part of something much bigger than his research, bigger than Earth itself. And somehow, despite the danger and uncertainty, he felt more alive than he had in years. The underwater cave system was a maze of twisted passages and hidden chambers, illuminated only by the bioluminescent algae that clung to the rocky walls and Lyra's own ethereal glow. Nathan guided their small submarine into a particularly well-hidden alcove, carefully maneuvering through the narrow entrance. We should be safe here, at least temporarily, Nathan said as he powered down the vessel's engines. These caves aren't on any official maps. I discovered them during my research on deep-sea ecosystems. Lyra studied the cave walls through the submarine's viewport, her expression thoughtful. The mineral composition, it's similar to the caves on my homeworld where the resistance first began. There's already a resistance? Nathan asked, surprised. The Celestian Empire had seemed unstoppable from Lyra's descriptions. Small, scattered, but growing. Lyra's fingers traced patterns in the condensation on the viewport. Many of my people disagree with the Empire's methods, but fear keeps them silent. The Harmony Protocol would end even the possibility of dissent. A soft ping from the submarine's communication system interrupted them. Nathan tensed, but Lyra raised her hand reassuringly. That's not the hunters. The frequency, it's something else. The ping repeated, forming a pattern. Lyra's eyes widened in recognition. It's an old resistance code. Someone's trying to contact us. Nathan watched as she adjusted the submarine's communication array, her fingers dancing over the controls with practiced ease. A voice crackled through the speakers, distorted but understandable. Princess Lyra, if you're receiving this, you're not alone. Earth has friends. Transmit acknowledgement if safe. Nathan and Lyra exchanged glances. Could it be a trap, he asked. Possibly, she admitted. But that code hasn't been used since the early days of the resistance. Few outside our inner circle would know it. She pressed several buttons, sending a brief response. The voice returned, clearer this time. Maintain your position. Assistance is coming. Within minutes, they detected movement in the water outside their cave. Another submarine, smaller and sleeker than their emergency vessel, emerged from the darkness. Its design was like nothing Nathan had ever seen, combining both human and alien technology. A figure emerged from the vessel, wearing what appeared to be a highly advanced diving suit. They approached the viewport, raising their hands in a peaceful gesture before speaking through an external communication system. I'm Dr. Raven Sullivan, the figure introduced themselves. I represent Earth's xenological defense network. We've been monitoring Celestian activity in this sector for months. Earth has a secret alien defense network? Nathan asked incredulously. Did you think your planet was completely unaware of the wider galaxy? Dr. Sullivan's voice carried a hint of amusement. We've been preparing for situations like this since the first confirmed alien contact decades ago. They guided both submarines deeper into the cave system, eventually surfacing in a hidden chamber that housed what appeared to be a sophisticated underground base. As they disembarked, Nathan saw that Dr. Sullivan was a tall woman with graying hair and sharp, intelligent eyes. Princess Lyra, she bowed slightly. We've been hoping you'd succeed in your escape. Our intelligence suggested you were planning something, but we couldn't risk contacting you directly. How long has Earth been involved in this? Lyra asked, her voice a mixture of surprise and hope. Long enough to know the Celestian Empire's true nature, Dr. Sullivan replied grimly. We've been gathering allies, building a network of worlds that oppose their expansion. But the Harmony Protocol changes everything. If they perfect that weapon. They haven't yet, Lyra interrupted, touching her suit where she had stored the stolen data. That's why they're hunting me so desperately. Without this research, they'll have to start over. Dr. Sullivan nodded approvingly. Then we have a chance. But we'll need both of you. She turned to Nathan. Dr. Brooks, your facility wasn't chosen for Princess Lyra's arrival by accident. We've been watching you, too. Your work on marine biological communication systems could be crucial in understanding how to counter the Harmony Protocol. Nathan's mind reeled at the implications. His research, which he'd always thought was purely focused on Earth's oceans, had interstellar applications he'd never imagined. The hunters won't stop searching, Lyra warned. Commander Vex especially, he's relentless. Let them come, Dr. Sullivan said firmly. We've been preparing for this confrontation for years. This base is just one node in a vast network. We have allies across Earth and beyond, all working together to prevent the Empire from spreading their version of harmony across the galaxy. As Nathan looked around the base, seeing humans and aliens working side by side with advanced technology, he realized just how limited his view of the universe had been. His quiet life of research seemed like a distant memory now. What's our next move? He asked, surprising himself with his readiness to join this resistance. We analyze the data Princess Lyra brought, Dr. Sullivan replied. We find a way to neutralize the Harmony Protocol. And then. She smiled grimly, we take the fight to the Empire itself. Lyra straightened, her royal bearing evident despite her exhaustion. My father believes he's preserving order, but he's destroying everything that makes life worth living. Freedom, diversity, the right to choose one's own path. She looked at Nathan. Your world understands these things. Perhaps better than we do. We're not perfect, Nathan said quietly. But we keep trying to be better. Maybe that's what really matters. The distant sound of water movement reached them, and everyone tensed. Dr. Sullivan quickly checked her instruments. Multiple vessels entering the outer cave system. Looks like the hunters have found our general location. Then we better get to work, Nathan said, looking at Lyra. Ready to change the galaxy? For the first time since he'd met her, Lyra smiled fully, her bioluminescence brightening. With Earth's help? I believe we might actually succeed. The grand hall of the Intergalactic Council chamber stretched impossibly high, its crystalline walls reflecting the light of 1,000 distant stars. Nathan stood beside Lyra, trying to maintain his composure despite the gravity of their situation. Representatives from hundreds of worlds filled the tiered seats, their diverse forms a testament to the galaxy's rich variety of life. Commander Vex had finally caught up with them, but not in the way anyone had expected. Instead of a violent confrontation, the the Celestian Empire had been forced to bring their grievances before the Council when Dr. Sullivan's network leaked evidence of the Harmony Protocol to member worlds. The Council recognizes Princess Lyra of the Celestian Empire, announced the Chief Arbiter, a being of pure energy contained within an ornate mechanical frame. You stand accused of treason against your empire, theft of classified research, and unauthorized contact with a pre-spacefaring species. Lyra stepped forward, her head held high. The past weeks had changed her. Working with Earth's resistance had given her a confidence that even her royal upbringing hadn't instilled. I acknowledge your authority, Council, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. But I dispute the nature of these charges. I stand here not as a traitor, but as someone who chose to protect the fundamental rights of all sentient beings. Commander Vex rose from his seat among the Celestian delegation, his metallic armor gleaming. The princess speaks of rights while endangering the stability of an entire sector. The Harmony Protocol was developed to ensure peace. Peace through mental enslavement is not peace at all, Nathan interrupted, earning gasps from many of the assembled delegates. As a human, his very presence in the chamber was unprecedented. The Chief Arbiter's energy form flickered. The Council recognizes Nathan Brooks of Earth, though this is highly irregular. Everything about this situation is irregular, Dr. Sullivan spoke from her position in the gallery. Including the fact that Earth has had to maintain a secret defense network to protect itself from empires that would rather dominate than cooperate. Murmurs spread through the chamber as Vex's face darkened with rage. You dare speak of cooperation? Your planet is barely capable of reaching its own moon. You have no place in these proceedings. That's where you're wrong, Nathan replied, his voice steady despite his racing heart. He gestured to the holographic display hovering in the center of the chamber. My research on marine biological communication systems helped decode the true nature of the Harmony Protocol. It's not just a weapon, it's an attempt to rewrite the very essence of free will. The holographic display shifted, showing the detailed analysis they had compiled. The complex molecular structures of the protocol expanded before the Council, its true purpose laid bare. The Empire claims to seek harmony, Lyra continued, but true harmony cannot be forced. Look at Earth, a planet where countless species have evolved together, each finding their own place in a complex ecosystem. That's real harmony. That's what we should be striving for. Naive idealism, Vex sneered. The galaxy needs order to survive. The Empire provides that order. At what cost? Nathan challenged. Dr. Sullivan's network has documented hundreds of cases where your order has destroyed unique cultures, erased entire ways of life. That's not survival, it's extinction dressed up as progress. The Chief Arbiter raised a limb for silence. The Council has reviewed the evidence presented. The development of consciousness-altering weapons violates multiple galactic treaties. However, the manner in which this information was obtained and the involvement of Earth remains problematic. Lyra stepped closer to Nathan, their shoulders almost touching. Then let Earth's involvement serve as proof of what's possible when we look past our prejudices. They helped me not because of political calculation or military advantage, but because it was right. And that choice has cost them dearly, Vex interjected. Their facility destroyed, their secrets exposed. A price we would pay again, Nathan declared firmly. Because some things are worth more than security or comfort. The right to think freely, to choose one's own path, these aren't just human ideals. They're fundamental to all conscious life. The chamber fell silent as the Council members communed with each other through pulses of light. Nathan felt Lyra's hand slip into his, her touch cool but reassuring. Whatever happened next would change not just their lives, but the course of galactic history. Finally, the Chief Arbiter spoke again. The Council's decision is unprecedented, as befits these unprecedented circumstances. The Celestian Empire shall immediately cease all research into consciousness-altering technologies. Earth's existence as a spacefaring-aware world shall be officially recognized, with appropriate protections and responsibilities. Vex stood abruptly. You cannot. We can and we have. The Arbiter's voice carried an edge of steel beneath its ethereal quality. Furthermore, Princess Lyra's actions are deemed justified under the Galactic Charter's provisions for preventing crimes against sentient rights. She shall be granted asylum and the authority to establish an independent watchdog organization to monitor compliance with this ruling. Relief flooded through Nathan as he squeezed Lyra's hand. They had done it. But the Arbiter wasn't finished. As for Earth, your people have demonstrated both wisdom and courage. Your path to full galactic membership shall be accelerated, with the assistance of those who recognize the value of your perspective. As the chamber erupted in discussion, Nathan turned to Lyra. Her eyes shimmered with emotion. We did it, she whispered. But this is just the beginning, isn't it? Nathan nodded, watching as Dr. Sullivan already began conferring with delegates from other worlds. The beginning of something better. Something worth fighting for. Commander Vex stormed from the chamber, but his departure felt less like a threat and more like the last gasp of an outdated way of thinking. The galaxy was changing, and Earth would help shape that change. 1 year after the historic Council decision, Nathan stood at the observation deck of the newly established Earth Celestial Research Institute, watching ships from a dozen different worlds dock at the orbital facility. The structure floated above Earth's Pacific Ocean, its design combining the best of human ingenuity and alien technology. Still getting used to the view? Lyra asked, joining him at the window. She wore an Earth-style research uniform now, though the subtle glow of her skin hadn't dimmed. If anything, it had grown brighter since she'd gained her freedom from the Empire's constraints. I don't think I'll ever get used to it, Nathan admitted, smiling. Though I have to say, studying actual alien marine biology is even more fascinating than I imagined. The Institute had become a symbol of the new era of cooperation between Earth and other worlds. Its laboratories hosted researchers from across the galaxy, all working together to understand and preserve the universe's biological diversity. Nathan's work on communication systems had expanded far beyond Earth's oceans, helping to bridge gaps between different species and cultures. The latest reports from the Monitoring Committee are encouraging, Lyra said, pulling up a holographic display. 3 more worlds have formally rejected consciousness-altering technology, and the Empire's influence continues to decline. Nathan watched as the display showed the shifting political landscape of their sector of space. And your father? Lyra's expression softened slightly. Still resistant to change, but some of the younger council members are beginning to see things differently. The success of this institute is hard to ignore. Their conversation was interrupted by Dr. Sullivan's arrival. The older woman had become Earth's first official ambassador to the Galactic Council, though she still preferred her research clothes to formal diplomatic attire. We have visitors, she announced, her eyes twinkling. The Aquarian delegation has finally arrived. They're particularly interested in your work on cross-species neural mapping, Nathan. The Aquarians were a recently discovered water-dwelling species whose biology shared fascinating similarities with Earth's marine life. Their arrival represented exactly the kind of peaceful first contact that the new protocols encouraged. Commander Vex made an interesting move today, Dr. Sullivan continued, her tone more serious. He's requested permission to visit the Institute. Nathan and Lyra exchanged surprised looks. Do you think it's genuine? Nathan asked. Our security scans suggest he's coming alone, without his usual entourage, Dr. Sullivan replied. And he specifically asked to see your joint presentation on biological harmony in natural systems. Lyra's bioluminescence flickered thoughtfully. Perhaps seeing a different kind of harmony is exactly what he needs. The Institute had become living proof of what they'd argued before the Council, that true harmony came from cooperation and understanding, not forced conformity. Every day, beings from different worlds work together, learning from each other's differences rather than trying to erase them. Speaking of harmony, Nathan said, pulling up his own research data, the deep-sea communication project has shown some remarkable results. We've documented over 50 distinct patterns that seem to cross planetary boundaries, fundamental biological principles that evolved independently on different worlds. The universe has been trying to teach us this lesson all along, Lyra mused. We just needed to learn how to listen. A soft alert sounded, indicating the Aquarian delegation was ready for their tour. As they prepared to meet their visitors, Nathan reflected on how much had changed. The quiet marine biologist who had once been content to study Earth's oceans now helped facilitate understanding between worlds. And Lyra, once a princess in a rigid empire, had found a different kind of power in fostering cooperation and growth. You know, Nathan said as they walked to the reception area, when you first crashed into my facility, I never imagined we'd end up here. Really? Lyra smiled. A scientist who studies communication between different species? I'd say you were perfectly placed to help change the galaxy. Dr. Sullivan chuckled. Sometimes the best revolutions don't come from grand military strategies or political maneuvering. Sometimes they come from people simply choosing to understand each other. The reception area doors opened to reveal their Aquarian guests, beings of shimmering blue-green hues whose movements reminded Nathan of dancing kelp forests. As translations began flowing smoothly between species, he saw the wonder in the Aquarian's multifaceted eyes, the same wonder he still felt every day. This was what they had fought for, not just the prevention of a terrible weapon, but the creation of something beautiful and new. Earth had gained its place among the stars not through force or fear, but through its willingness to learn, to adapt, and to see the value in diversity. Ready to change more minds? Lyra asked softly as they prepared to greet their guests. Nathan smiled, thinking of the long journey that had brought them here and the even longer one that lay ahead. Always. One conversation at a time. The universe, they had discovered, was far more complex and wonderful than anyone had imagined. And its greatest harmony came not from enforced order, but from the countless voices that dared to sing their own songs while learning to sing together.